recently went on holiday to Pakistan and it was such an eye-opening experience because I had never really considered the possibility of visiting my homeland before. And then when I went there, I realized that there was a lot of wisdom to learn from the people and their lifestyles. And one person that inspired me the most was actually my grandmother. Even though she lives in Pakistan now, she did spend a lot of her life here in London. All her children grew up here and she's run a lot of successful businesses both in Pakistan and in London. She has so many connections around the world. She has so much knowledge about investing and finance, which always shocked me because it didn't seem possible for a woman from her times or even allowed in the first place. Like even me, when I was growing up, I was taught that girls never really leave the house, and even if they pursue a career or any type of education, it was just so that they could qualify for a better husband. And here was my grandmother from a time that was far more conservative than when I grew up, and a country that was even more so, but she was so easily pursuing entrepreneurship. So as we got closer in Pakistan, I finally sat down to question her and I asked her, how did you get started? And she said, well, I've always been business minded and I started with a few small shops here, and then I convinced your granddad to go to London and find better opportunities there and scale up our businesses. And so I said, but didn't you ever consider that because you're a woman that it might be difficult? And she goes, no. And I thought to myself that that was quite interesting because I'm sure that that mindset of being a woman and it being more difficult out there would have held a lot of women back from pursuing business or any type of career really. So I began observing her for the rest of the holiday because I really wanted to understand what her way of thinking was like and how it had actually helped her create so many successful businesses. My little experimentation. The next hint that I got was while we were playing Ludo. My grandmother would wake us up in the middle of the night to play Ludo all night long until Fajr time. We were always on opposing teams, so it was always my grandmother and my cousin against me and my aunt. My cousin was very good at Ludo, so her and my grandmother would constantly be winning in the beginning, but then my aunt and I picked up some of their tactics and we became better players ourselves. And sometimes when it looked like we were about to win, my cousin would panic and she'd be like, oh no, we're about to lose. And every single time my grandmother used to say, don't say that, otherwise you will. There were so many more instances like that where people would say something negative and she would say, don't think like that or it will happen. I realized that she was able to manage her perception so well that she could always trust herself no matter what was presented in front of her. Whether it was a whole society that told her that women stay at home and don't go out and pursue business, or if she was literally about to lose a game, she would not let herself doubt herself. She would think she was a winner first and then prove it to herself later. She was the embodiment of a concept that I already knew existed, but seeing it in place solidified it in my mind that your perception does determine your reality. Two people could be in exactly the same circumstances, living the exact same lives, working the exact same jobs and earning the exact same salaries, but their lives could take completely different trajectories based on their perception alone. Someone with a victim mentality who thinks that they've already lost in life and that things are never going to get better will be stuck in that exact same place. But someone who trusts themselves over what they can physically see and acts in alignment with who they want to become will certainly move forwards. Do you hear that knee crack? Whoa. Your environment and your reality is just data. What you think about that data is your perception, which governs your beliefs and actions that feed back and affect your reality, creating a never-ending cycle. In order to master your reality, you first need to master your perception. The world is designed for you to have negative perceptions that don't serve you. For example, I went to an all-girls school and they would constantly tell us that because we were girls, we would have to work twice as hard to make it in any male-dominated field. That we would have a harder time in life, especially if we weren't white. It was framed in a way that was meant to be motivating, but on a subconscious level, it plants the seeds for that victim mentality. It reminds me of that Brooklyn Nine-Nine episode where, if you don't watch Brooklyn Nine-Nine, just shut up and listen, where Jake and Amy are babysitting Kanye and Lacey after their father gets mistreated by a cop. And they ask, is it because he's black? And Amy's trying to explain the injustice by going, well, you know how the world is harder for women? And the twins go, it is? And you just see the spark disappear from the eyes. It's like that. You wouldn't know that the world's out to get you unless that's what you're told. And then you internalize it and it becomes a core belief that you, and by extension the universe, set out to prove right. Anytime you get rejected from a job or you encounter a failure, you think to yourself, oh, it's because I'm a woman, or oh, it's because I'm not white. And because that's the perception that your reality mirrors, you will actually end up in those instances where it happens. That's how you know you're trapped in the cycle. But it doesn't have to be that way, because obviously there are women all around the world, and especially women of color and throughout history, despite what they want you to believe, who have been successful, who have inspired change, who have made groundbreaking scientific discoveries, who are hardworking and disciplined athletes, who are powerful businesswomen like my grandmother. The only thing that sets these women apart is their perception, their ability to look at the world around them and think that despite what is true for others, it doesn't have to be true for them. And this is targeting something huge like social inequality. And to overcome that, you have to start unlearning the things that have been drilled into you since you were a child. But even if you look into the smallest perceptions of yourself, you can figure out if they serve you or not, and then override the ones that don't. One that I used to have was that I'm annoying, and if I spoke, then people would just find me cringe. But that doesn't serve me at all, especially because I love to fucking hear myself talk. I have so many opinions, so many ideas that I want to share, and I'm very intentional about the things that I create, and I want to be able to communicate that. So every time I had that thought, I would just tell myself to shut up. That everything I say has value and people want to listen. And then I started to act like it. I didn't just start yapping for the sake of yapping. I would first consider when I was talking and why, only speaking if I had some new perspective to offer or something insightful to share. I started asking more questions, and because I wasn't holding myself back, I started speaking from a place of authenticity too. And that's when I started to get invited to become a public speaker at events, or people started asking me personally for my opinion. The statement that I was telling myself in my head had actually become true. Everything I say has value and people want to listen. You see my little bunny's ears in the little corner? And that's just one example of many. You should actually write down some of the perceptions you think are holding you back, and then next to them, write down what you think that they should be. So I'm annoying becomes I'm charismatic. I'm ugly becomes I'm the sexiest motherfucker on the planet. And if you want to go one step further, you should write down how you think that people who hold these beliefs would act. So a charismatic person to me is someone who acts with confidence, who always speaks their truth, who brings energy and passion into everything they do. Someone who is beautiful, takes care of their appearance, is consistent with their routines, and is also considerate of others and their needs. Their needs. And then what you've created for yourself is essentially a guide, not just on managing your own perceptions, but also embodying the actions you think are aligned with it.